This week on What Do You Got? UFC rankings don't mean shit.
Stay tuned.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day. Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Burnout Podcast. I'm Tim Fulton.
I'm Andy Smith.
And this is What Do You Got? A little segment where we come to the table with a topic that the other guy doesn't know about. It's Andy's turn tonight. Andy, what do you got?
UFC rankings. They mean nothing.
We've known this, but please elaborate.
Well, Chael Sonnen actually did a very good piece on this.
Okay.
And he explained it in a way that I would like to get your opinion on.
Okay.
So I want to get your thoughts on UFC rankings, what you think they mean, what you think they should do, and what you think they actually do right now.
All right. So, by definition, the word ranking to me means who is better than who. And we all know that UFC math doesn't always make sense, so you'll have to take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't always mean what it should. But in theory, I would think the champ is better than everyone else. The first seed is better than everyone below him, so on and so forth. Obviously, that is not 100% true because you can have people who will change weight classes and they'll be immediately put into like 5th or 4th seed or something like that without having faced anyone else in the division.
Yeah.
And we know that 10-pound differences can mean a lot. So those jumps matter.
Yeah.
What I think that they actually are doing is placing people in order of what they would like to see them face the champion.
Okay, so you think that placement of the ranking determines who fights for the belt?
I have a weird feeling that your conversation is going to upset me.
It's gonna.
Because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. One of those two. Otherwise, it's just a number for the sake of a number.
Okay, so a lot of this is going to be me taking from what he said, but also what's trickled in of some of the things that I think with this as well.
Okay, go for it.
So number one, the UFC doesn't come up with the rankings. So it's not them. I mean, I don't think that they have their own rankings. It's basically the journalists or whoever these. I'm sure you could find names attached to them, but I don't know them. Nobody knows them, so they might as well be ghosts, right? Because they're not known.
That bothers me to begin with, but continue.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so number one, the rankings started in 2012, I believe.
Okay.
There was no rankings before that. They just said you were the number one contender if you did this, but it was all hearsay. Nothing was on paper. I believe the reason why they came up with the rankings was so that they could have selling and talking points.
That makes a lot more sense, actually.
Right? Because instead of having to say and explain to the layperson who's watching ESPN that this person is so good that they should be, if out of all the fighters, and I'm going to, but if you just put number 6 next to his name, you say he's the number 6 ranked light heavyweight in the world.
It all of a sudden makes sense.
All of a sudden, it's like, that's what you need to know. He's better than this, and this guy, and he's not as good as the 5 below him. And that's it. But it doesn't mean anything else other than that. And to his point and his credit, and this is what is painful, but I agree with him almost 100% on every one of his points. Does your ranking guarantee you a shot at the title or a shot at somebody that's above you in the rankings?
No, and that has always bothered me, but we're going to get back to that in a minute.
It doesn't. It can mean that, after like somebody will look at you or you have a little bit more, but you can't. Nobody has ever gotten a title shot solely based off the fact that like I'm number 2.
Yeah.
Like there has to be something else there. People either want to see that fight, which is why they're going to pay for it. But unless the fans want to see it, that doesn't mean shit. You're not going to get another fight with somebody who just because of your ranking. It's not a bargaining chip in that sense.
And that actually resolves a problem in my head almost because the way that the rankings make it's almost like the way I've been looking at it is a permanent wrestling whatchamacallit.
Seed?
Yeah. Like it's permanently there. So if someone faces a champion, I'm trying to think about it like in my logical way. If someone was the first seed, I would think that they should have first opportunity to face the champion. Say they do and they lose. Well, what happens to them? Do they get... And this was like a problem in my head of like, how do you handle that? Like, do they go get shuffled back down to the bottom? They're not worse than everyone else.
Yeah.
They still deserve that first seed. But if the first place is supposed to face the champion, do they just continually do it? Like, it was a problem in my head that I couldn't resolve, and this is actually making it a little bit better. But
yeah, so another thing with the rankings is they change so often, right? And they come out on a certain day of the week. They come out on Tuesdays.
okay,
I didn't know that.
that's weird.
Mr. Sonnen didn't know that. Somebody had mentioned it and said, this is what happens. They come out on Tuesdays. So they have a day that they come out, like with the new rankings.
It's gonna bother me that I don't know who does these.
I think it's like a
sports analysis.
the entity that is the media, or the entity that is the sports writers. Like, they just...
I'm not satisfied with that.
I don't know. And the fact that we don't know is weird.
It is weird.
The fact that nobody I know knows.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But to that point is like, I feel that the UFC catches heat because of where guys stand in the rankings. And first of all, this is making me more realize that the rankings really don't mean dick.
Yeah.
And number two, they don't come up with them. They don't come up with the rankings.
It makes me feel a lot better, to be honest.
Yeah.
It makes me, the only thing I would say, and it makes a lot of sense that it would be a selling point and like a logical way to introduce fighters to the layman, like you were saying. But
that's what I agree with it with.
Yeah. And I think it makes sense that way. I would like to see the UFC not take credit for it.
I don't think they ever have tried to take credit for it. I think that they get put on it so bad, and they use it the way that it's beneficial when they're trying to sell a fight.
I agree with you, but it makes the fact that I've been watching UFC for as long as I have, and I had no inclination that the UFC does not put up those numbers.
Yeah.
I would like to have known that. I do think that they should use it as a selling point. I do think they should put up the stats that say, here's first, second, third, blah, 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 blah. But it makes me feel like that they're producing those.
Yeah, no, that would be a conflict of interest.
Yeah, but like the person the layman who doesn't know who these fighters are and sees these numbers is never going to know that the UFC didn't put them together.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only thing. I wish they would say this. They don't even have to say who. This was made by.
Well, I think it's one of those you're two in the forest to see, or two in the trees to see the forest, because they know that they don't do it. So it's almost like they would assume that everyone knows that they don't do it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Maybe, I don't know, but this was the point that I found hilarious. So Conor McGregor is ranked 15th at 170. He's ranked number 15 at 170. Okay, he's ranked number 12 on the pound for pound greatest list.
Okay.
So, out of all the 170 pounders, he's ranked 15th. Out of everybody in the UFC, he's ranked 12th. The only other guy on the pound for pound list that fights at that weight class is Kamaru Usman. Him and Conor are the only two guys in the top 15 at 170 pounds. So what these people that are creating this list are saying is that Conor is 15th greatest 170 pounder, but he's the 12th greatest fighter of all time overall.
So the entire thing.
So that means that I just want you to understand fully. So I'm going to write this out in crayon. He's not better than 1,470 pounders. He is better than everyone else other than 11 people overall. There's only one other 170 pounder above him in that list, which means on one list, there's 14 guys in one weight class that are better than him. But then in the other list, there's only 11 guys in the world that are better than him.
Yeah, so
And the same people make this list.
It's arbitrary. It's completely arbitrary.
But the same people make this list.
Yeah.
Like they made the list and they looked at it and said, makes sense to us.
That's why I want to know who it is.
Makes sense.
I want to know who to blame.
Yeah, so you're saying that he's only 15th in one weight class, but he's 12th overall.
Damn it.
So why aren't the fucking 14 below him and 170 above him on the pound for pound? There's only one guy above him, and that guy's the champion.
Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
That's so weird.
Yeah. And this is why the rankings, you can have somebody that's 15th fight and a short notice fight that's fight's number 2. If we're going to use the rankings the way they're supposed to be done, you take what that guy has. You keep what you killed. That guy's ranked number 2. If you beat him, doesn't matter if it was short notice. It doesn't matter if you weren't supposed to be there. You beat the number 2 guy. You get if you beat the champion on a short notice fight, do you not get the belt? No, you get the belt.
And that's another thing that bothered me, because people who go into retirement go off these lists, I'm assuming, right? Henry Cejudo, he's off these lists.
I believe so, yeah.
If he was to come out of retirement tomorrow, they'd be like, oh, he's second.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the point. No one. These are completely made up.
They
They're
take you off the
arbitrary.
list after, I think, a year
Okay.
of inactivity. But the weird thing is that if you're the champ and you retire, and then you say you come back in 2 weeks, you're going to have the same spot.
Yeah.
Except you're not going to have champ if you relinquish your belt.
Yeah.
But if you come back after a year, I think what they would do would just be, all right, pretend that he had an injury. Or pretend that he was just taking time off. Where would he be if that was the case? And that's where they put him.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's almost made the same way that sports betting is made. How do you figure that someone's a plus 900 or a minus 750? You kind of just guess. But like Joey Diaz says all the time, I've never seen a bookie with a part-time job. So they must know what they're talking about.
Yeah, they're doing all right for themselves. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Those numbers are arbitrary too, but they're smart arbitrary.
Yeah.
Good educated guesses.
I just think that it's eye-opening when they're using something that has such weight on it, like the feeling that it has such weight on it.
But it doesn't.
But it doesn't.
I will say it is helpful.
It's helpful to know. If you don't know, it's helpful.
It's relative. You know what I mean? So like you see someone and you're like, he's in the top 10. Even
Yes.
if their lists are not 100% on, or like they're a little wacky at times, chances are most people would put whoever a top 10 guy is in a top 10. So
Yes.
it's helpful for that reason. But once you get past like the initial, like, I have a general sense of where everyone is athletically, basically you can ignore it. Is the moral of the story. You can ignore it.
Yeah, and it's weird because, like, you would think, based on other sports,
I don't think.
if you're the number 1 quarterback, you would think that you get paid the most.
Yeah.
That's not the way they work.
No, it's not.
But that's what it is. It counts for literally nothing.
Yeah.
It counts for nothing because we've all seen it where everyone wants to watch the number 5 guy fight the champ because they got a history.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, and 4 contenders have to take a back seat. Doesn't matter how many fights you won. It doesn't matter.
Which is awful in UFC because it's not like any other sport. Taking a back seat, it could be 6 months, could be a year.
Yeah.
Before you get an opportunity.
I've never met one person who's a fan of the sport that doesn't have at least one example of when they're like, yeah, but like when that guy got it, I was kind of happy and like I wanted him to get it. So like I don't mind that he skipped over 7 guys to get the title shot.
It is a weird sport for that reason. It's one of those things that I think isn't a problem because like they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
It's their sport. They can run it however they want.
And then here's the thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But like every other sport has some form of what's the word I'm looking for?
Structure.
Continuity, something to it where like that makes sense. Like if we were to watch a fight and see one guy beat another guy, you don't know who's fighting who next. And that that in a way it's fun, but in a way it bothers me too.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think it can be as structured as other sports just by its nature.
Yeah.
But also like injuries, you know, if the number 2 guy fights and the champion fight in the same night, like champ fights number 1, number 2 fights number 3. But say number 2 fights number 3 2 months after the champ fights. It's like, well, now you're going to wait 6 months till they fight? Or are you going to put somebody else in there with the champ?
Or even if they fight in the same night. Say number 2 guy wins, but shatters his arm, and he needs 7 months to recover. You're not going to wait 7 months just for one guy.
How about this?
To sell seats.
How about when everyone agrees that the guy is not ranked high enough?
Yeah. Like what's his name in the heavyweight or light heavyweight? Oh goddamn, old guy coming up.
Oh, Glover?
Glover.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like everyone wants to see Glover take the shot.
He's not getting it.
Mother.
He's not getting it because they're putting Israel Adesanya versus
Oh, that's right.
Blachowicz. And then I guess in the hopes that Izzy wins, John will come back down and try to fight him for the title at 205. Which, the thing is, I get it. It sucks, but I get both sides. I wanted Glover to get the shot.
I know.
But if you don't do that now, there's a chance you miss Izzy versus John Jones.
And that will sell like crazy.
Yeah.
It's, again, one of those things. I feel like it is and isn't a problem. Because
it allows for things.
It allows for things.
But it also allows for things.
It's almost like Dana White is playing with like army soldiers, and like he just is like, now you fight you, now you fight you.
Yeah. And like one of the examples of one that I thought was good was when Bisping won the title from Luke Rockhold, and they gave Dan Henderson a title shot. Like, that was only because they had a history.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, Dan was always can win a title shot. You can probably get off the couch right now and still knock out somebody. But that doesn't happen unless they have a history.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I just thought it was interesting. That's all I got. And I just lowered my seat.
I'm taller for once.
I'm Tim Fulton.
All right, guys. Well, let us know what you think of the UFC rankings in the comment section down below. How much garbage are they? Or do you actually respect the people who put them out there? Do you know who puts them out there? Educate us a little bit.
Where do they live?
Where do they live? Do you know where they live? Over at brodownpro.com, where you can get all of your badass Brodown gear. We sell t-shirts, hoodies, all that other good stuff. Get your late Christmas presents now before you run into the person who you haven't given a gift to, and they get mad and shut you out of their lives for good. We'll catch you guys next time.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day.